Have you ever wondered why certain feelings won't leave you alone, no matter how much you try to ignore them? Why do you feel a guilt that you don't know the source of? A constant fear of not being enough? Or an inexplicable anger towards authority figures? Perhaps you think all of this is a result of your current circumstances, your job, your relationships, the daily struggles. But I'm going to tell you an uncomfortable truth. What traps you today did not originate in the present. It was planted a long time ago, in the early relationships that shaped your psyche. And above all, it has deep roots in the relationship you had, or did not have, with your father or father figure. Sigmund Freud, the Austrian neurologist and recognized founder of psychoanalysis, spent his life studying how unconscious forces shape our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And he left us a warning that many still ignore. The figure of the father is one of the most powerful archetypes in the human unconscious. The way you saw, felt, and interpreted the presence or absence of your father when you were a child, even if you don't consciously remember any of it, continues to command your life to this day. You may think you have overcome it, that what's in the past is in the past, but your body tells another story. Your behavior tells another story. Look honestly. How many times have you felt a desperate need to please others, even when it hurts you? How many times have you felt like an imposter, unable to recognize your own worth? How many times have you sabotaged yourself before even trying, taken over by an inner voice that said, "You're not good enough"? How many times have you bent to bosses, authorities, or partners as if you were that same child trying to avoid your father's disapproval? And don't be fooled. It doesn't matter if your father was present or absent, loving or strict, violent or overly permissive. The impact is there. An absent father creates a void that you try to fill your whole life. An authoritarian father creates an internal critic that never shuts up. A weak or submissive father may launch you into an incessant search for protective figures, or conversely, lead you to an automatic disdain for anyone who tries to guide you. There is no neutrality here. The figure of the father always leaves a mark, and until you understand that mark, you will be bound to it. Freud taught us that this influence goes beyond the personal. The paternal figure also shapes culture. In his works, Totem and Taboo and Civilization and Its Discontents, he shows how the fear, guilt, and repression inherited from the primordial father are forces that sustain the social institutions that govern our lives. But before transforming the world outside, you need to confront your internal world. Today, you will understand why you will never be able to heal while you do not look at the relationship you built, or were forced to build, with your father. And I'm not talking about a superficial look. I'm talking about diving into the depths of your unconscious and bringing to light what you have repressed. It is a hard process, yes, but it is the only one that can truly set you free. Most people believe that their problems begin in adulthood, a toxic relationship, a frustrating job, a personal failure. But that's not how it works. Psychoanalysis shows us that the deepest conflicts of the psyche are formed long before you become aware of the world. And the most powerful of all these conflicts has a name you may have heard but never truly understood: the Oedipus complex. Freud described the Oedipus complex in detail in 3 essays on the theory of sexuality, and his discovery was one of the most uncomfortable in the history of psychology. He showed that between the ages of 3 and 6, you experienced a psychic battle from which you did not emerge unscathed. During this phase, you began to form intense emotional bonds with your parents. But what seems like an innocent relationship hides a deep, unconscious drama. You, like every child, wanted to be the center of the universe for your mother, to receive all her love and attention. But there was an obstacle: your father. He was the invisible rival who monopolized the affection of the maternal figure. And even if you don't remember, this generated feelings of rivalry, jealousy, desire, and above all, guilt within you. Unconscious desire for the opposite sex parent, rivalry with the same sex parent, fear of punishment, shame, anxiety. All of this was processed by a child's mind, incapable of understanding what was happening. This process is universal, with slight variations. While in boys this dynamic is known as the Oedipus complex, in girls, Freud described a complementary phenomenon, the Electra complex, later developed by Carl Jung. Here, it is the paternal figure that becomes the object of unconscious desire, while the mother is perceived as a rival. Just like in boys, this conflict also generates feelings of guilt, fear, and repression, which become shaping forces of the female psyche. And here lies the problem. These conflicts did not disappear. They were repressed, buried in the unconscious. But the emotional energy that accompanied them, fear, guilt, shame, remained there, shaping your psyche as a silent force. You learned that desire was dangerous, that challenging authority figures led to punishment, that love came with guilt. These non-verbal lessons became the foundation of your superego, that part of the mind that watches, judges, and punishes your own thoughts and behaviors. Now think, how many times have you self-censored for no apparent reason? How many times have you felt conflicted about wanting something good for yourself? How many times have you remained silent in front of someone stronger, even when you knew you were right? All of this is echoes of the original trauma. For example, you are the person who cannot sustain a healthy relationship because you always feel inferior or unworthy of love. Or, on the contrary, you become excessively controlling and jealous, trying to ensure that you will never be replaced or rejected, exactly as you feared would happen in childhood. Or perhaps you are someone who diminishes yourself in professional environments, with an unconscious fear of competing with male authority figures. All of this is the Oedipus complex in action. And what is more cruel? Since conscious memory does not reach this phase, you grow up believing that these feelings are part of who you are. They are not. They are fragments of an unconscious battle that was never resolved. And as long as you do not bring this to light, you will continue to fight wars you don't even know you are waging. But the Oedipus and Electra complexes are just the beginning. Prepare to look at a part of your mind that you have never dared to face. Few people understand what happens after the Oedipus or Electra complex is repressed. It is at this moment that the figure of the father ceases to be just an external rival and begins to inhabit your internal world. The unconscious, unable to cope with the intensity of these conflicting feelings, desire, rivalry, fear, finds an outlet. It internalizes the paternal figure, and it is here that the paternal complex is born. Freud described in The Ego and the Id how this internalization forms the basis of the superego, the psychic instance that acts as an unyielding judge within you. Your father, or rather the image you have constructed of him, comes to reside in your mind. From there, he begins to watch over you, to judge you, to punish you. You might think, but I didn't even have such a significant relationship with my father. It doesn't matter. Sometimes, the more absent he was, the more powerful the image you created to fill the void. The psyche does not tolerate gaps. When the father is absent, you idealize. When the father is violent, you defend yourself by creating a cruel superego that anticipates punishment. When the father is weak, you internalize the feeling that the world has no protection. In any of these scenarios, the child does not process the real father. She creates a psychic father. And it is with him that you continue to dialogue to this day. Now, see how this manifests in your daily life. You enter a relationship and, without realizing it, feel that you need to please the other person at all costs. You can't say no, you fear being abandoned, you act as if you are still seeking approval from your father. Or you are the opposite, unable to submit, challenging every figure of authority, bosses, leaders, partners, because deep down you are trying to win the battle you couldn't win against your father in childhood. Perhaps you are someone who lives with a critical voice inside your head, telling you that you are never enough. No matter how much you achieve, you always feel like an imposter. This is the superego, the ghost of the internalized father, that continues to punish you because you learn to associate love and recognition with an eternal need to please. In deeper cases, the paternal complex manifests in entire life choices. You may avoid leadership positions for fear of becoming like the rejecting father, or compulsively seek success just to prove to an imaginary father that you are worthy. All of this happens because, as Freud showed, the child's psyche does not simply know how to overcome such a deep conflict. It represses it and transforms it into automatic patterns. But what has not been resolved repeats itself. And this is where we arrive at one of the most cruel mechanisms of the unconscious: compulsive repetition. You do not just carry the paternal complex, you relive it day after day, attracting into your life the same dynamics that feed it. And until you understand this cycle, you will be doomed to repeat it. In the next part, we will dive into this phenomenon. You will understand why, even when you try to change, you always end up falling into the same patterns, in the same relationships, in the same work conflicts, in the same feelings of inadequacy. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support.